just as rolling blackouts continue to batter businesses, there are concerns about their sustainability. Now, while it's a struggle for some business owners to keep the lights on, what do you do, in fact, when it comes to the situation where sometimes employees are being compromised in some of these instances, as we see some of the businesses trying to keep the lights on, but at the same time, you're seeing employees also struggling when it comes to some of the health and safety issues, the possibilities thereof. So let's discuss some of the do's and don'ts with Osborne Molatudi, a labor law specialist and Molatudi Attorneys MD. Thank you so much for your time. So let's just start here. Load shedding hits, and it seems in that particular instance, the employer is not able to, keep the lights on through a backup system, or if it's a building, there are no, lifts or anything that is working at the time. What does an employee do in that particular situation?
Thank you, Bongiwe, and good afternoon to your viewers. This has to do more with the effect of the unforgiving load shedding that we experience in our country, countrywide. However, one needs to emphasize that health and safety in any workplace is non-negotiable. And this means that the employer's obligations to provide and maintain a working environment that is safe and without risk to the health of its employees continues. And by this, we mean that the employer, in the light of this unforgiving load shedding that we experience from time to time, has the duty to conduct some sort of surveys and risk assessment from time to time, and to match the timeline or the time schedule of load shedding with that of the employees having to be asked to vacate. This particularly where the employer in question will have machines or will have a building that has lifts and escalators, you name it. So in a nutshell, the employee will then have every right to refuse to work in a workplace that is not safe to them as a result of load shedding.
So
However, that does not prevent both parties from discussing other alternatives.
So then if the employee chooses to do that, then can the employer then say that I'm not paying you for possibly the 2 hours that you're not at your desk?
It cannot be, because the inability by the employee to work is beyond the employee's control. It's not out of the employee's own making. Imagine if the entire SABC were to be hit by load shedding as we speak. Surely arrangements will have to be urgently made for all employees to evacuate that entire building. But SABC cannot then turn around and say, because you couldn't work for the duration of that load shedding, which was either expected or unexpected, therefore we're not going to pay you. That cannot be, because, as I said, and my apologies for repeating the point, that the inability to render services to the SABC, as an example, it's due to the employee, to the circumstances beyond the employee's control.
So then the employer in that particular regard, as I listened to your earlier point, does have every right, they're protected by law, to also adjust the work to the schedules as well. Can they do that?
Indeed, and this is where good communication becomes essential for the success of the employer's business objectives, as well as maintaining health and safety and environmental aspects at the same time. So what then this means is that both parties need to sit around the table and discuss alternative arrangements insofar as hours of work are concerned, having in mind that a contract of employment would have been concluded a while back without anticipating that at some stage we will have this load shedding, which has become constant and become part and parcel of our normal lives. So in a nutshell, yes, the employer and the employees, and in some instances through their trade unions, can go back to the drawing table and discuss alternatives hours of work, to match with the load shedding schedules. In some instances, Some employees even go as far as requesting to work from home or flexible hours. In some instances, some employers would offer installing some inverters or panels in some instances for senior executives, critical positions such as your CFO, your accountants, people that have to monitor a performance of a company, your HR, your ER, you name it.
All right, quite an interesting one. Thank you so much for giving us, a view of what the labour law says in that particular regard. That's Osborne Molatudi, a labour law specialist and Molatudi Attorneys MD.